Hey guys, this is EJ Holland with the Wolverine.com. Back with another Wednesday recruiting chat here exclusively on the Wolverine YouTube channel. Go Blue, go Blue. I hope you guys enjoyed yesterday's podcast with Zach Libby. That is our Tuesday structured podcast show. Today is me flying solo dolo answering your questions. So this show is all about you guys. If you guys have Michigan recruiting questions, make sure to hop into the chat, post your comment, and we will answer your questions. It is a very weird time for Michigan football recruiting. We're obviously heading into the 2024 class. We still have some stragglers in the late signing period, and obviously we have the Jim Harbaugh NFL rumors and their impact on the recruiting process. So kind of weird putting up recruiting stories while there's coaching question marks, but hey, we're doing it. So it's a perfect time to remind you guys to subscribe to the Wolverine.com today. If you haven't subscribed to the Wolverine.com, you can do so right now for just $29.99 until August 31st of 2023. So appreciate you, our producer Hutch, for pulling that up right there. That is the deal right now, $29.99 until August 31st of 2023. That gets you access to insider information on Michigan recruiting, football, basketball recruiting, NIL, transfer portal, and so much more. And you get access to our great message board community over on the Fort. Come chat with your fellow Michigan Wolverine fans, all for $29.99 until August 31st of 2023. And with the Jim Harbaugh NFL rumors heating up, there's no better time to sign up. A couple of last promotional things. Make sure to like this video. Subscribe to the Wolverine YouTube channel. That is completely free. You are not obligated to do so in this YouTube channel or in this YouTube show, but if you want to donate, make sure to click that super chat. That money goes towards our travel budget. Helps me get on the road and see recruits. I haven't been on the road in a while, man. The season ended. There aren't a lot of off-season events, but with late January coming up and as we get into the contact period, I will be back out seeing recruits. Already planning a DC trip to see Nicholas Harbaugh, so we'll see how things go on that front once we figure out the Harbaugh situation. But looks like we have a few questions. Like I said, guys, this is not the Tuesday show, so that means you can hop in with any questions. I am here to answer your questions for the next half hour. Let's go ahead and go to our first question, and it comes from blank name. Great username. What player would you compare Cameron Brandt to? So Cameron Brandt is a consensus 4-star edge defensive lineman out of Sierra Canyon in California. Brandt's a really interesting prospect. So I know a decent amount of the sites have him graded as a 3-star. I know our producer Hutch is pulling up his profile right now, but he's listed at about 6'4", 260 pounds. He is ranked as a defensive lineman, but Michigan is recruiting him as an edge. So here we go. You see his rating. So two sites have him as a 3-star on 3 and Rivals, and two sites have him as a low 4-star in 24/7 and ESPN. So he's graded right at about the same area by all the sites. The 3 stars by On 3 and Rivals are both high 3 stars, and the 4 stars by 24/7 and ESPN are both low 4 stars. And that's right around the same area I would have him graded at. And for those of you that don't know, I just kind of dove into talking about his rankings, but this is Cameron Brandt. He is a 4-star defensive lineman on the consensus out of Sierra Canyon in California, committed to Stanford, but is looking to make an official visit to Michigan in January. Doesn't have a firm date set yet, but I had a story up with him on Monday talking about trying to figure out a date. Michigan is the only school he's planning to visit, so others have shown interest like Cal, UCLA, Texas, but Michigan's the only one he's considering outside of Stanford. He's been committed to Stanford since the summer, but obviously with the departure of head coach David Shaw, he decided to not sign during the early period, give Michigan another look. Michigan offered way back in the offseason. He's been in constant communication with defensive line coach Mike Elston over the last few weeks. So that's kind of a rundown of where things stand with Brandt. And I think if everything stays, as it is now and the Harbaugh rumors died down, I could easily see him flipping to Michigan. He loves what Michigan has to offer on and off the field. In fact, the biggest reason before the Harbaugh drama that I didn't put in a pick for him to flip to Michigan is that he hasn't visited yet. So he hasn't been able to see Ann Arbor with his own eyes. But once he visits, I do think a flip is very possible if the Harbaugh rumors die down. But the question is, what player would I compare Brandt to? So now that you know a little bit more about Cameron Brandt, like I said, he's 6'4", 260, kind of a interesting body type. If you watch his film, he has a really kind of odd type of build. I don't really love him as an edge prospect. And like I said, all the services are in agreement, high 3-star, low 4-star, which is where I would place him. I initially thought he'd be more of a 3 technique. And the guy I would actually compare him to is Chris Jenkins, who is in that kind of similar rankings range as well. High 3-star, low 4-star, needed to add a lot of weight. Brandt's heavier than Jenkins was as a high school senior, but they play with a similar type of playing style. I'm actually surprised that Brandt's not being recruited for the Chris Jenkins role. I do think that's the guy that he resembles the most. He won't have to add as much weight as Jenkins if he does play that role, but he will need to add about 25 pounds, 30 pounds to his frame, which I think he can carry. And that's where I see him at. I see him in the Jenkins role. I don't think he will be an edge, even though Michigan's recruiting him there. But maybe if they can keep him at the same weight and rebuild his body under strength coach Ben Herbert, he could end up there. But as far as my opinion, I do think he resembles Chris Jenkins. And obviously that would be a really good player. And like I said, I have him ranked as a high 3-star, low 4-star as well. I think he'd be one of the more solid additions in the 2023 recruiting class. So it's kind of the latest with Cameron Brandt and where things stand with him. Let's go to Tyree Smiley, who says, EJ, why he keep doing this? So obviously referring to Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh and why he continues to flirt with the NFL. Personally, I'm not going to blame Jim Harbaugh for flirting with the NFL. Look, man, I mean, the NFL is the NFL. If you were, a coach yourself and you had an opportunity to go back to the NFL after narrowly missing out on winning a Super Bowl, I certainly would not blame you for that, right? So I think the NFL itch isn't something that anybody should necessarily put Harbaugh down for. Obviously, he said that he would enthusiastically be back at Michigan, which might have been a little much. But what else is he supposed to say at that point when you're about to play for a college football playoff? I mean, I think right now the NFL rumors are legit. I do think he has some interest, but at the same time, it wouldn't be surprising to see him just end up right back at Michigan. I know they're working hard on figuring out the details of his contract and all that type of stuff. So we'll see what happens with the Harbaugh situation. But overall, I really, don't blame him for looking at the NFL. I don't think you can sit here and say that Harbaugh is making a mistake by looking at the league or anything. Now, that's not to say Michigan's not a great opportunity. He's been here for a while. He's an alum. He's a guy that's turned around the program from what it was, and so he deserves plenty of credit. And maybe he just feels like he needs to finish his job at the next level. So I can't really blame the guy for that. So I mean, that's why he keeps doing it. Let's go down to Matthew Kistler, who says, how many super chats are needed to help EJ get off the 56K modem? I don't know. I was going to call my internet service provider because it's weird. Like, I feel like my internet's fine. Like, I don't have any problem streaming. Like, my wife forces me to watch Unsolved Mysteries every night, and I don't feel like those ever lag. Like, I don't feel like I'm lagging. So hopefully, I can get a boost. But yeah, maybe I can use your super chats to help my monthly bill go up and get a better modem. So I don't know. I apologize, guys. Hopefully we can look into that if I'm still coming out pixelated. Maybe it's just I don't know. Maybe it seems like I'm on AOL like trial Internet Explorer deals right now, I guess. But you can blame what did I just recently switch? I just recently switched to Cox, so I guess you can blame them for my internet issues. Let's go ahead and go down to Nathan Shaw, and he says, "Why is this a recurring problem year after year?" Like I said, I mean, Jim Harbaugh just has that NFL itch. It seems like it's something that he really wants to do, or that he really, I guess, really wants to do isn't the right phrasing. It's something that is really still appealing to him. And I mentioned this on last night's podcast. Like, me being a San Francisco 49ers fan, maybe it helps my judgment. But the way that team lost, like, it was just heartbreaking, man. Like, having that much stacked talent on defense, having, one of the most productive running backs of all time in Frank Gore, and getting so close to winning it all and not doing so, and then having the opportunity to come back after turning Michigan around and getting them to back-to-back college football playoff appearances, I feel like that would be appealing to anybody. Like, and I feel like Jim Harbaugh is just the ultimate competitor. Like, I mean, losses like that must still like hurt deep down. I mean, the NFC Championship loss to the New York Giants, where they had Kyle Williams fumble on the punt return, like that one was. I feel like that one hurt more than the Super Bowl, at least for me. But the Super Bowl loss to the Baltimore Ravens was obviously dramatic. They should have won that game as well. So, I mean, it's just tough, man. And that stuff, I'm sure, lingers with him. Like, I just lost a game in NFL Blitz yesterday where I had two players drop touchdowns, and I'm still thinking about it today. I can't imagine what losing a Super Bowl does to you years later. So I just think it's something that's always going to be in the back of his mind. And as long as Harbaugh's around and the contract is not a super locked up contract where there's room for him to wiggle out and there's no real like buyout threat or anything like that, I think we're always going to be sitting here talking about Jim Harbaugh rumors. Now, how seriously we're talking about Jim Harbaugh rumors, I guess, could vary year to year. Last year was terrible, and I think that's had an effect on how we viewed this year. I don't know. I think we have to wait and see. It's really only been like 96 hours, so like 3 days of Jim Harbaugh NFL rumor talk. So we'll see how it heats up. He gave that random quote yesterday to the local North Carolina, or I guess Charlotte Fox affiliate, which is weird that Harbaugh gave them a quote in general, but that quote wasn't like very reassuring, obviously, with him saying he thinks that he'll be back. I saw some reporters were like, yes, this means he's back. Like, I mean, I didn't get that out of the quote. He said, I think I will be back. And he said he doesn't know what the future holds. So obviously Jim Harbaugh is not a wizard. So we know he's not a fortune teller and isn't going to predict the future. But I think the quote itself was just kind of oddly worded, especially after saying he would enthusiastically be back before the Fiesta Bowl. So that wording changed a little bit. I think is the thing people are holding on to the most. Either way you look at it, I suppose. So I think for the people that are looking at it in a positive view are saying, well, you would say, I think I'm having, Canes for lunch, and you go and you get it. But at the same time, I could easily change my mind. I could be like, you know what? I don't feel like Canes. I want to go get some Chick-fil-A. So I don't know, man. I think you could look at it either way. Maybe I'm just a pessimist at heart, but I just, a quote like that where he says, I think, and it differs a little bit from enthusiastically, doesn't give me the goody feelies inside. Let's go down to Tyler Bootsa, and he says, do you think that Harbaugh told Jadyn Davis that he might flirt with the NFL, and that's why he held back his commitment to 2023? Possibly. I have not heard that from Jadyn Davis. I mean, that is an interesting angle, and I think, from a conspiracy theory point of view, it would make a lot of sense. since Davis was set to make a decision in December. For those of you that don't know, Jadyn Davis is Michigan's top quarterback recruit on the 2024 board, top 100 prospect out of powerhouse Charlotte Providence Day, has been the number one guy on the board for quite some time. I've had a prediction in for Michigan to land him since the summer. Davis told me that he was planning to make a decision in December, and obviously December is gone, and we are now into January. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, it's possible, but when you look back at last class, Harbaugh was honest about his NFL flirtations, and I've seen people point to that. But it's important to remember that he was honest with the signees. So, like, he told Will Johnson and his family that he was going to explore NFL opportunities, right? But though Will was already signed as part of the 2022 class. However, Dante Moore told me that he didn't ever hear from Harbaugh about the NFL. So Davis, obviously not a signee, a 2024 recruit. It'll be interesting to see if they've had those conversations with him being the number one guy on the board, with Michigan doing the all your eggs in one basket thing with him again this year. It didn't work for Dante. It needs to work with Jadyn Davis. It's totally possible that that conversation has happened, but I cannot confirm or deny it. I just know that Davis still hasn't set a timeline, man. Like he said, December hasn't happened. January was thrown around, but it's never like Davis came out and said, "Hey, I have this date locked in," or "Hey, January is definite." He said, "I think it will be January." So he can always change his mind, just like he said he thought it would be December, and just like Harbaugh said he thinks he'll be coaching at Michigan. It's a fluid situation with David in the same sense that it's a fluid situation with Harbaugh. Let's go ahead and go down to Shadyville 3. Is there a way Michigan can entice more Southern recruits to come to Michigan? Urban Meyer had a great take on D-line recruiting. If they're not good enough to play in the SEC, then don't recruit them. Well, Michigan obviously has a lot to sell when it comes to defensive line prospects, particularly edge guys. Michigan's put pass rushers in the NFL. They had Aiden Hutchinson go extremely high last year. They have a great teacher along the defensive line in Mike Elston, who's a proven commodity. So, yeah, a lot to sell. Defensive line production has been great. They play in an NFL scheme under Jesse Minter. All that. You can sell a ton on that. But I think when it comes to Southern defensive linemen, those guys have offers from Georgia. Those guys have offers from Alabama. So schools that also have similar success with defensive linemen and have a lot of NFL experience to sell there as well, and are closer to home. I think that's a little tough to beat out. But at the same time, I think the biggest thing the easiest answer, I guess, would be NIL. I mean, getting a program in place from an NIL perspective can help ease some of those concerns. I mean, when you're already battling an Alabama or Georgia for a top defensive lineman and you don't really have an NIL plan in place, I mean, you're pretty much SOL, man. Like you're not really going to have much of a chance there. So I think the first step would at least be putting an NIL plan in place. And then I think the second step would potentially just being having someone on staff with more ties to the general area, the general SEC country. I think Jesse Minter was a great hire in regards to that because he obviously had coached at Georgia State. He's very well respected around the state of Georgia in general, has great relationships with high school coaches. So this is what I mean by expanding the recruiting department as well. This is where you can hire a guy that's like a SEC country specialist or like a regional expert when it comes to, the states of Louisiana and Georgia and Alabama that could help with the relationships of not only the kids, but the high school coaches, the trainers, just the key recruiting people around there in general. I think having those relationships goes a long way, and Michigan doesn't have a ton of them on staff. So that's what I mean by expanding the recruiting department and the benefit of that. So Yeah, I mean, it's always going to be tough to pull defensive linemen out of SEC country, but I think schools have, Big Ten schools like Ohio State and Notre Dame as well have shown that it's possible. Ohio State just landed top Michigan target Caden McDonald out of Georgia this past cycle, so it's definitely possible. But I think Michigan's playing at a disadvantage from an overall perspective. I mean, same thing, just having the NIL plan in place, building relationships there, investing resources, getting guys that are really familiar with certain states and have ties there that can help lure kids to the university. So let's go down to Mario Lacey, and he says, "Is Jadyn Davis a silent commit?" So we never give away whether kids are silent commits or not until after the process. But I will say that Jadyn Davis was a very heavy lean. I didn't think there was much competition to worry about, and I still don't really. Like, if Jadyn Davis doesn't end up at Michigan, where is he ending up at? Tennessee? I mean, they just had a 5-star this cycle. Clemson? I mean, I could see it. Obviously, there's familiarity there. He's continued to visit Clemson, but they have a 5-star of their own that's about to start. So yeah, I mean, Georgia's already gotten their quarterback recruit. Florida has their quarterback recruit. Alabama has their quarterback recruit. So I mean, Ohio State could enter the picture after losing Rayola, but I feel like some bridges might have been burned there. If you remember, he was Ohio State's top quarterback, or it looked like he was going to commit to Ohio State. It looked like he was on the top of the board, and then they took Rayola. So maybe some burned bridges there. I don't really see a big threat like North Carolina, not really. Penn State, not really. Like, where else is he going to go? Like, we're talking about, potential NIL offers and things like that. But what other true options are there? Tennessee, Clemson. I mean, you're not putting yourself in a great spot there. But um, overall, I still really like where Michigan stands. I know there's some comments in the section that say the ship sailed. I don't think the ship sailed. I mean, I think it will if Harbaugh obviously goes to the NFL. I think that changes the dynamics of that recruitment a ton. But like I said, we're only 3 days in. Let's just wait and see how it plays out. I think it should give you more confidence that there isn't another really big threat in the Jadyn Davis recruitment. Let's go ahead and go down to how do you think the big passing plays in the college football playoff will affect skill position recruiting, specifically wide receivers? I think I do think that JJ McCarthy's play has definitely opened some eyes with JJ having 2 years left of eligibility. Whether he uses both of those years, will remain to be seen. But I think a lot of wide receivers have noticed JJ, have seen the offense open up. They also just know JJ from like the 7-on-7. Like, some of you guys might not know, but JJ used to travel the country with Midwest Boom, one of the premier Club 7-on-7 teams based out of Chicago. And so he knows a lot of these guys, or a lot of these underclassmen saw him throwing at those events if they were playing with the younger teams. So JJ was always around for those events, for camps, Elite 11, all that type of stuff. So I think there's familiarity with him just from him as a high level recruit, and then seeing him on the TV having success, especially at this high level of the stage. The game opened up into like a Big 12 shootout, which I guess wasn't great for the end result, but I think it was good for recruits to see that, Michigan's not afraid to pass the ball as well. But I do think Michigan needs to land another high level quarterback, whether that's Jadyn Davis in 2024 or Bryce Underwood or Ryan Montgomery or Cutter Bowley in 2025. They need another guy to lead a class, to have wide receivers know, hey, this is the guy that's for sure going to be throwing me the football. I might get a year in with JJ, but I definitely will be having this guy as my quarterback. The last 2 cycles, Michigan has taken project guys. You had Alex Orji, Jaden Denigal, Kendrick Bell. Like, they need a true big time quarterback in 2024 for sure, and definitely 2025. I think I said it yesterday on the podcast. We all talk about Jadyn Davis being the guy, but 2025, man, Bryce Underwood is a special, special talent. And then I think Ryan Montgomery is just a really safe take as well with a really high floor. Let's go down to let's see what other questions we have. Travis Foster says, EJ, is the yearly Harbaugh season end shenanigans annoying or exciting to cover? I like Harbaugh, but it's kind of annoying at this point. What say you? So, Travis, I can't tell you that it is very annoying. It is not exciting to cover, especially me. I don't really focus on the team. Of course, I'm doing my own Harbaugh digging and helping the team guys when I can. But covering recruiting during this saga is absolutely terrible, man. Year after year, it's just it sucks, man. Especially coming off back-to-back college football playoff appearances. I said this on the podcast last night. Like last year, I was going. I went to Florida. I went to see Raylan Wilson. Michigan had just won this big battle for top 100 kid over Georgia and Florida. It felt like Michigan was on top of the world. They were going to have a top 5 recruiting class. Like I really felt that was possible. Like for me, not being a Michigan guy, it kind of was. I guess I felt like a sense of pride. Like, man, I'm covering the University of Michigan, like the winningest program of all time. They're back. They're about to, like covering Texas. It was always like, we're back, and they never were, and they never won anything of significance. And now I finally cover a team that's winning something of significance, that had a rich program history and all of that. And it looks like they have a staff full of young, hungry recruiters. And instead of finishing with a top 5 class, you finish with the number 20 class in the country. That's terrible. And now this year, it's like, all right, Michigan's back. They've got another college football playoff appearance. It looks like we're going to avoid the Jim Harbaugh drama. It looks like there's going to be a top 5 recruiting class, and now all we're talking about is the Jim Harbaugh drama, and nobody cares about any of the recruiting coverage, which is why we have a record low number of viewers. So appreciate the people that have come on in, because all people want to talk about is Harbaugh. Nobody wants to talk about recruiting right now. So it's definitely frustrating. It's frustrating that Harbaugh doesn't already have a better contract in place. Like I said this on the podcast yesterday, like, it's super, super frustrating and disappointing. You're Michigan. You're supposed to be the leaders and the best, and you don't have this contract situation figured out. There's no NIL plan in place yet. It's always soon, 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 and it's never now, now, now. And it just sucks, man. Like, that's super frustrating. So I feel your pain, even though I'm not a Michigan fan. Just being close to the program as a recruiting reporter, it's super frustrating for me. Like, I've woken up the last few days and I'm like, well, guess I'll just go play some video games with my wife, because nobody really cares what I'm writing about right now. So it's terrible, man. I enjoy writing recruiting stuff for you, by the way. So let's go down to Phil Chain, and he says, if Harbaugh is in contract talks with Michigan and looking for more money, why would he cool the NFL rumors down? He has the leverage and is using it. Yeah, what's kind of different with the Harbaugh situation this time around is he does have an agent. So even though I said earlier in the show, it's kind of random that he replied to the North Carolina Fox affiliate, which it still is. Like, it's not like it's not like Harbaugh's agent is like pulling a bunch of PR stunts and like hitting up the local Denver Fox station or the local Indianapolis CBS station or anything like that. It was just that one tweet from that guy who I'm not even sure how he got a hold of Harbaugh or why Harbaugh even responded. But yeah, I do think Harbaugh has the leverage to put out quotes like that and get more money and get better deals for his assistants and expedite the NIL situation. So, but what I meant by that is it's just weird that it was just that one guy, that one station in Charlotte. It's not like it's being blasted out as a mass PR message to the local media or to the Denver media or to the Indy media. It was just weird that it came from that one dude. Let's go ahead and go down to JJ Frey, and he said, what would your perfect contract with Harbaugh look like? Well, it would definitely obviously be multi-year, to the point where it's like, I mean, just lock him up for as long as he wants to be here. Like if he wants to sign a 10-year contract, like I guess Mel Tucker signed a 10-year contract. If you want to sign a 10-year contract that long, sign it, make the buyout high, and maybe include some stipulations about flirting with professional teams. Make him the highest paid coach in the Big Ten Conference. He obviously deserves it. So that's what it would be. I mean, it would be 10 years, highest paid coach in the Big. Thank you, Michigan Wolverine. I appreciate you for taking my writing seriously. But yeah, to finish it off, I mean, it'd be 10 years. It'd be the highest coach in the Big Ten Conference. It'd have some stipulations about talking to NFL teams, and it would be a higher buyout for sure. So that's what it would look like. Yeah, 10 years, 100 million if you want to do that. Yep. So everybody's kind of in agreement there. Let's go down to Thomas H. And we are running low on time. It looks like we've hit the 31-minute mark. So we'll do rapid fire for the next few questions. Let's go with Thomas H11. He says, how much will Harbaugh NFL rumors hurt Jadyn Davis and Nicholas Harbaugh? I think it affects Nicholas Harbaugh a little bit more just because he has to sign sooner. Harbaugh is making his decision in literally less than a month. It is January 4th. He has to put pen to paper on February 1st. That's not a lot of time. So if Harbaugh's in-home visit takes place in 3 weeks, where it's his last opportunity to make an impression in person, since Harbaugh already used his official visit to Michigan, then if we're still talking about NFL here, that's not really going to leave a lasting impression on Harbaugh and his family. On top of that, you've had Harbaugh include new schools in his top group. Oregon has come into the picture. USC has re-entered the race as well. So it's not looking great for Michigan. And I think that Harbaugh, God, we're going to get that right one day. I think that Harbaugh's flirtation with the NFL has certainly had an impact on Harbaugh, who has a great personal connection with Harbaugh. At the same time, Davis has a great connection with Harbaugh as well. But he's a 24. He hasn't had a definitive timeline. Like I said, I'm not too worried about the other suitors. I am worried with the other suitors when it comes to Harbaugh. So it is hurting with both, but I would say it's making more of an immediate impact with Harbaugh because of the time constraints. Let's go ahead and go down to Shadyville 3. Harbaugh should make more money than Tucker, but does he truly deserve top 5 money? I mean, he deserves to be the highest paid coach in the Big Ten Conference, back-to-back championships. So, yeah, I would say he deserves top 5 money. I mean, he's a proven commodity. Who are you going to get that's better than Jim Harbaugh? Nobody. Let's go down to looks like that was the last question. So appreciate all the love we're getting here at the end. Thank you guys for joining me. If you all want to, I would encourage you to like this video, help it get on the algorithm, subscribe to our YouTube channel. It is completely free. We're dropping new videos every week on everything Michigan. If you're not a subscriber to the Wolverine.com, then you can do that right now for just $29.99 until August 31st of 2023. All right, guys, I appreciate you all for joining me. Hope you guys have a great rest of the week. And hopefully next week we're not talking as much about the Jim Harbaugh NFL rumors. And I think I will go get myself some Chick-fil-A now, but I don't know. Could switch it up to Cane's.